Reaction 2016 Republican presidential candidate, Ohio Governor John Kasich. Governor, look, my hearts go out to the people that are refugees, genuine refugees. Europe, we see what they're now dealing with. We spent, I think, what, $4 billion already on Syrian refugees, and the price tag keeps going higher. My question is, if the president's going to take in these people, how do we ascertain people that genuinely are fleeing ISIS in Iraq and terror in Syria and the war-torn country that they have been in from those that want to bring harm to our country? How do we ascertain that?
Well, Sean, this would be a place where, frankly, we all ought to work together. And I think at this point, I would actually welcome the Congress to weigh in and make sure that we have a procedure that can verify who these people are. I mean, there's nobody in this country that would want somebody connected to ISIS to be able to come in here. You know, it's interesting to note,
Governor,
Sean,
I don't want to interrupt you, but how do we determine that? They're trained to lie.
Look, Sean, it's how we determine a lot of people that come into this country legally. We try to do the kind of check, and if it requires a change in immigration, which I think, frankly, we need. But I wouldn't say to these people, you can't come in. I mean, we got the Statue of Liberty that says, you know, give us your tired, your poor, the people who want to be free. We're not taking the bulk of these. This is a European problem. But we ought to do some of what we can do to help, including logistics and some humanitarian aid. I think, Sean, we ought to use this situation as an opportunity to get closer to our European allies so that when we want to extend sanctions on Russia, they're going to work with us. When we say that we need to form a group to go and deal with ISIS, we can get them. I mean, we've become estranged from people who ought to be our best friends.
Governor,
so look at this as an opportunity.
Our own State Department, our own government, our own intelligence is saying it is possible that these people could have ISIS and al-Qaeda ties. I don't see any way to separate the majority of good from the few bad, and that means that in the process of trying to be good people, we're going to put Americans at risk. We have 94 million Americans out of the labor force, 50 million in poverty, 46 million on food stamps. Don't we have to take care of the people at home first?
Yeah, Sean, you know that we have to, but we're also a global leader. And we can't just put our heads in the sand when something like this happens. Do I think that that we can create a system where we can determine who these folks are? I sure as heck would think so. And if we can't, then we'd have to look at it again. But I think it's possible to do that, Sean. One other point I want to make. The reason why we face this now is because we had a red line in Syria. We ignored it. We didn't support the rebels early on. U.S. leadership is what has aggravated this situation. Now, you know, there are many stories all the way back into World War II where we refused to take people in, we refused to take a boatload of people into this country. And we don't really know what happened to them. They happened to be our friends of the Jewish faith. Now look, it's not the same as this, but America has always been welcoming. We just got to make sure that we properly take care of our security. But to just say no because, you know, we're not 100% sure of anything, I just don't think is the right approach, Sean. You and I will just have to disagree with this. I would say this, up it, bring the best people in, and make sure we're not taking bad people in here.
If we could ascertain that, I probably would be more inclined to do it. Let me give you one other statistic.
You would be.
But I don't think you can.
Wouldn't be here if we hadn't had immigration.
I know, but this is different because you know that ISIS and al-Qaeda, you know, they're evil, but they're not stupid, and they want to take down the great Satan, and they want this caliphate advanced. And you know that they're going to put the ISIS fighters and al-Qaeda fighters in that group of refugees.
Sean, I've been calling for boots on the ground with a coalition of our partners for, I don't even know now, is it, you know, months, maybe even close to a year. We have to go and destroy ISIS on the battlefield, and we have to destroy them with you know, in the battle of ideas, both of them. But if we were to just say, hey, we're not getting involved, we're not interested.
I'm not saying that.
I want to build a closer relationship with our European allies. And look, let's up the security. I don't care what it takes. Let's get the government bureaucracy and all this political correctness out the door, and let's figure out who these people are. And if we can't figure out who they are, and we think they pose a danger to us, well, that's a whole new ball game, and then, of course, we wouldn't let them in. But let's create a process and a procedure where we can determine this. I share your concern. I think we can meet it. Look, I can't guarantee anything. Nobody can.